The distress signal came at 3 in the morning, ship time. Yuna was asleep when the alarm pulled her from dreams she would not remember. She reached the bridge in under a minute. Her dark hair still messy. Her eyes sharp despite the hour. Minho was already there, his young face lit blue by the screens in front of him. "What do we have?" she asked. "Escape pod," Minho said. "Small, drifting, no power signature. Could be dead inside." Yuna looked at the screen. The pod was a dark shape against the stars, spinning slowly like a forgotten toy. They were 3 weeks from the nearest station, no other ships on sensors. Whatever was in that pod had been floating for a long time. Life signs? Minho's fingers moved across the controls. 1. Faint. Very faint. Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. She was captain of the Nuri's Light, a small cargo ship with a crew of 5. They carried supplies between stations. They did not rescue strangers. They did not take risks. That was how you survived in the galaxy. But she had not become captain to let people die in the dark. "Bring it in," she said. The cargo bay was cold when they opened the pod. Tejo stood near the back, watching. He was the ship's cook, a quiet man in his 40s with gray at his temples and calm eyes. He rarely spoke unless he had something worth saying. Right now, he said nothing. The pod door hissed open. What came out was not human. It was massive. 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales that caught the light like wet stone. Its arms were thick as tree trunks. Its hands ended in claws that could tear metal. Its face was something from a nightmare, long, sharp, with yellow eyes that held no warmth. A Krathan. Minho stepped back so fast he almost fell. "Captain, I see it," Yuna said. Her voice was steady, but her hand had moved to the weapon at her hip. The Krathan did not attack. It could not. Its body was broken. Deep wounds crossed its chest and arms. Dark blood, almost black, dripped onto the floor. It looked at them with those terrible eyes, then collapsed. For a long moment, no one moved. "We should space it," said Duri, the ship's mechanic. He had come running when he heard the commotion. His face was pale. "You know what they are. You know what they do." Everyone knew what the Krathan were. The galaxy's apex predators. They did not make peace. They did not trade. They conquered. They hunted. They saw every other species as either prey or obstacles. Entire systems had fallen to them. Entire civilizations had been erased, and now one of them lay bleeding on their floor. "If we kill it, we become murderers," Yuna said. "If we save it, we become fools," Duri replied. Yuna looked at the creature. It was unconscious now, its breath coming in slow, wet sounds. She thought about all the stories she had heard. The destroyed colonies, the eaten prisoners, the ships that vanished without a trace. Then she thought about who she wanted to be. "We save it," she said. "But we keep it restrained. Heavy chains. Locked cargo hold. No one goes near it alone." They worked through the night. The Krathan was heavy. It took all 5 of them to move it. They treated its wounds as best they could. Using supplies meant for human bodies, they wrapped it in chains strong enough to hold a shuttle. They locked the cargo bay and posted a guard. By morning, the creature was awake. Tejo was chosen to bring it food. He did not argue. He never argued. He simply took the tray of nutrient cubes, the same gray, flavorless blocks that everyone in the galaxy ate, and walked into the cargo hold. The Krathan was sitting against the far wall. Its wounds had been bandaged, but it still looked like death waiting to happen. When Tejo entered, those yellow eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made his skin feel cold. He set the tray down halfway between them. "Food," he said. The Krathan did not move. It just stared at him. The silence stretched. "Your kind poisons what it touches," the creature finally said. Its voice was deep, rough, like stones grinding together. "I will not consume your synthetic filth." Tejo looked at the nutrient cubes. They were not poison. They were simply nothing. No taste, no smell, no memory. Just fuel for bodies that had forgotten what eating meant. "It will keep you alive," Tejo said. "I do not fear death." Tejo studied the creature. He had seen many things in his life. He had been a military cook before joining this ship. He had fed soldiers going to battle. Knowing some would not return, he had learned to read faces, to understand what people needed before they knew it themselves. This creature was not just refusing food. It was refusing times them asterisk. Refusing to accept anything from the species it had been taught to hate. Then you will die, Tejo said simply. And your story will end in a cargo hold, surrounded by strangers who tried to help you. He turned and walked out. Behind him, the Kraithen said nothing, but its eyes followed him until the door closed. That night, Tejo lay in his small cabin and thought about his grandmother. She had died 10 years ago, back on Earth. She had taught him to cook when he was a boy. Real cooking. With real ingredients. With love and patience and time. He had not made real food in years. No one did anymore. It was considered wasteful. Primitive, but he still remembered. And somewhere in the cargo hold, a predator was starving not for nutrients, but for something it had never tasted. Something real. 5 days passed. The Kraithen did not eat. Tejo brought nutrient cubes every morning and every evening. Each time, the creature ignored them. Each time, Tejo left without a word. The trays piled up near the door. Untouched. The crew grew worried. Not because they cared about the Kraithen, most of them still wanted to throw it out the airlock, but because a dying predator was an unpredictable predator. They did not know what it would do when it got desperate. We should drop it at the next station, Dury said during dinner. Let someone else deal with it. The next station is 2 weeks away, Yuna replied. It will be dead by then. Good. Yuna gave him a hard look. We did not save it just to let it die. We saved it because you have a soft heart, Captain. And soft hearts get people killed. Minho looked down at his plate. He was the youngest of them, only 23. He did not like conflict. Maybe it will eat tomorrow, he said quietly, but Tejo knew it would not. He had watched the Kraithen closely over these 5 days. He had seen the way its breathing grew slower. He had seen the way its eyes lost their sharpness. It was not just starving, it was giving up. That night, Tejo could not sleep. He lay in his cabin and thought about the nutrient cubes. They were efficient. They contained everything a body needed. Proteins, vitamins, minerals, the perfect food for a galaxy that had stopped caring about anything except survival. But they were not food. Not really. Food was the smell of garlic frying in oil. Food was the sound of soup bubbling on a stove. Food was sitting around a table with people you loved, sharing something made with your own hands. Food was memory. Food was love. Food was human. Tejo got up. The ship was quiet at this hour. He walked to the small storage room next to the galley, the one he kept locked. Inside were his secrets. Things he had collected over the years, hidden from inspectors, saved for a day that never seemed to come. Dried chili peppers. Fermented soybean paste. A small jar of sesame oil. Rice that was real, not synthetic. Garlic. Ginger. A container of kimchi he had made himself. Months ago. He had not used these things in years. He had told himself he was saving them. But saving them for what? For whom? Tonight, he would cook. The galley was small, barely big enough for one person. Tejo moved through it like he was dancing. He soaked the rice. He chopped the kimchi. He heated oil in a pot and watched it shimmer. The smell hit him like a wave. It was the smell of his grandmother's kitchen. The small apartment in Busan where she had raised him after his parents died. The window that looked out on the harbor. The old stove that always ran too hot. The way she hummed while she cooked, never following recipes. Always knowing exactly what to do. Tejo's hands trembled, but he did not stop. He made kimchi jjigae, the spicy stew his grandmother made every winter. He added tofu and pork and green onions. He let it simmer until the broth turned red and the whole galley filled with warmth. Minho appeared in the doorway. What is that smell? His voice was strange, almost scared. Tejo did not answer. He just ladled the stew into a bowl. Yuna came next. She stood beside Minho, her eyes wide. Teho, what are you doing? Cooking, he said. But that's... She did not finish. There was no word for what this was. It was too strange. Too old. Too human. Teho carried the bowl to the cargo hold. He punched in the code and stepped inside. The Kraithen had not moved from its spot against the wall. It looked worse than before. Its scales had lost their shine. Its eyes were half closed. It barely seemed alive. But when Teho entered, something changed. The creature's head lifted. Its nostrils flared. Those yellow eyes opened wide, and for the first time, they held something other than hatred or emptiness. They held hunger. Not the hunger of a predator looking at prey. Something deeper. Something older. Teho set the bowl down between them. Steam rose from the red broth. The smell filled the cold cargo hold, pushing away the metal and recycled air. What is this? The Kraithen's voice was weak, but there was wonder in it. Food, Teho said. He sat down cross-legged, not caring about the danger. Real food. My grandmother's recipe. The creature stared at the bowl. Its claws twitched. Teho could see the war happening inside it. Pride against need. Hatred against hope. Slowly, carefully, the Kraithen reached for the bowl. Its massive hand wrapped around it, like it was holding something precious. It brought the bowl to its mouth and drank. The change was immediate. The creature's eyes closed. A sound came from its throat, not a growl, not a roar. Something softer. Something Teho had never heard from any Kraithen. It was the sound of someone coming home. When the bowl was empty, the Kraithen looked at Teho. Really looked at him, for the first time. What have you done to me? It asked. Its voice was different now. Quieter. Confused. Teho thought about his grandmother. About the way she always said that cooking was not about feeding bodies. It was about feeding souls. I gave you something real, he said. Something made with care. Something that means more than survival. The Kraithen was silent for a long time. I do not understand, it finally said. Teho stood up and took the empty bowl. You will, he said. Tomorrow, I will make something else. And the day after that. And the day after that. He walked to the door, then stopped. My name is Teho, he said without turning around. Another long silence. Vornak, the creature said. Teho nodded and left. Behind him, Vornak sat in the dark cargo hold, holding the memory of warmth in his chest. For the first time in longer than he could remember, he did not feel alone. Vornak healed faster than anyone expected. Within a week, his wounds had closed. His scales had regained their dark shine. His eyes were sharp again, watching everything with the focus of a hunter. The crew grew more afraid of him. Not less. But Teho kept visiting. Every day, he brought something new. Bulgogi one day, thin slices of beef marinated in sweet sauce, cooked until the edges turned crispy. Japchae, the next glass noodles mixed with vegetables and sesame oil, soft and savory. Then Giran Jim, a steamed egg dish that was gentle and warm, the kind of food you gave to sick children or tired elders. Each time, Vornak ate in silence, and each time, when the food was gone, he asked Teho to stay. Tell me, he said one evening. Tell me why. Why what? Why you do this? Vornak gestured at the empty bowl. You are prey. I am predator. Your people run from mine. They hide. They fight. They die. But you feed me. You sit with me. You speak to me as if I am not a monster. Teho leaned against the wall. He was not afraid anymore. He did not know when that had changed. But it had. Are you a monster? He asked. Vornak was quiet for a long moment. His yellow eyes stared at something far away. Something Teho could not see. I have killed many, the Kraithen finally said. I have burned worlds. I have eaten the flesh of enemies while they still breathed. I have done things that your nightmares cannot imagine. And did it make you happy? The question hung in the air between them. Vornak's claws scraped against the metal floor. I do not know what that word means. Teho nodded slowly. He had suspected as much. There was something empty in this creature. Something hollow. Not evil, exactly. "Tell me about your people," Tejo said. And Vornak did. He spoke of the Krathan homeworld, a harsh planet where only the strong survived. He spoke of the ancient hunts, when his ancestors tracked great beasts across frozen plains, when every meal was earned with blood and courage. He spoke of how the hunts gave meaning to their lives, not the killing itself, but the struggle, the purpose, the gathering around fires to share meat with family. Then he spoke of what came after. "We conquered the stars," Vornak said. "We built ships that could cross galaxies. We met other species and found them weak, easy prey. So we took what we wanted. We consumed everything in our path. And we kept consuming, world after world, species after species. We never stopped. We never asked why. We just hunted." Vornak's voice grew quiet. "Somewhere along the way, we forgot what the hunt was for. We forgot the fires. We forgot the sharing. We forgot the meaning. Now we eat to survive. Nothing more. Our food has no taste. Our victories have no joy. We are the strongest species in the galaxy, and we are hollow." Tejo listened without interrupting. He understood. In a way, the galaxy had done the same thing to everyone. In the rush to spread across the stars, humanity had abandoned so many things. Art, music, cooking, the small, slow pleasures that made life worth living. Everyone ate nutrient cubes now. Everyone rushed from one task to the next. Everyone survived, but no one truly lived. "My grandmother," Tejo said slowly, "used to say that cooking is how we tell people we love them. Not with words, with our hands, with our time, with the care we put into every dish." Vornak looked at him. "She said that when you cook for someone, you give them a piece of yourself. Your memories, your history, your heart. The food carries it all. That is why your food tastes different," Vornak said. It was not a question. "Yes." The Krathan was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was strange, almost vulnerable. "I have not felt anything in many years. Victory does not move me. Battle does not excite me. I thought perhaps I had become broken, that something inside me had died." He looked at the empty bowl in his claws. "But when I taste your food, I feel. I remember things I did not know I had forgotten. The fires of my youth, the warmth of my mother's den, the taste of the first beast I ever hunted, shared with my father under strange stars." A tremor passed through his massive body. "You have given me back my memories, human. You have given me back myself." Tejo felt something tighten in his chest. He thought about his grandmother again. About her small hands, always moving, always creating. About the way she smiled when he ate her cooking. About the last meal she ever made for him, before the sickness took her. "Cooking is how we keep the dead alive," he said. "Every recipe carries the hands that made it before. When I cook my grandmother's dishes, she cooks with me. She is still here. In the food. In the love that made it." Vornak stared at him. "You are a strange species," he said. "You are small and weak and fragile. Any Krathan could kill you with one blow. And yet," he stopped. "And yet," Vornak shook his head slowly, "and yet you have weapons we cannot fight. You carry power we cannot take. You have given me more in these few days than all my conquests ever gave me." He set down the bowl and did something Tejo had never seen a Krathan do. He bowed his head. "Thank you, Tejo, for showing me what my people have lost." Tejo reached out and touched the creature's scaled arm. The skin was rough and cold, but beneath it, he could feel a heartbeat. "Then help me show them," he said. "Help me remind them what the hunt was really for." Vornak raised his head. His yellow eyes burned with something new. Not hunger, not violence. Hope. "How?" he asked. Tejo smiled. "First, we need more ingredients." The Krathan warship appeared without warning. One moment, the stars were empty. The next, a shadow blotted out the light, a ship so massive it made the Nuri's light look like an insect. Its hull was black and covered in spikes. Weapons bristled from every surface. It was not a ship built for travel. It was a ship built for war. Yuna's voice came through the speakers, tight with fear. All hands to the bridge. Now, Taeho ran. When he arrived, the main screen showed the warship in terrible detail. Minho was pale. Duri was already reaching for his weapon. Though they all knew it would be useless. They are hailing us, Yuna said. They demand we surrender the prisoner. How did they find us? Minho asked. Does it matter? Duri said. Give them the beast and maybe they will let us live. Taeho said nothing. He was thinking about Vornak. Still locked in the cargo hold. About the conversations they had shared. About the hope he had seen growing in those yellow eyes. We can't, Taeho said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. What? Duri stepped forward, anger in his face. Are you insane? That's a Krathan death fleet out there. Do you know what they do to ships that refuse them? I know, Taeho said. But if we give him up now, everything changes for nothing. He goes back to being empty. We go back to being afraid. And the galaxy stays the same. The galaxy is what it is, Duri said. We can't change it. Maybe not, but we can try. The hail came again, a harsh, growling voice that filled the bridge like thunder. Pray, vessel. You have something that belongs to us. Surrender the warrior Vornak, or we will tear your ship apart and feast on your bones. Yuna looked at her crew. At Minho, young and scared. At Duri, angry and practical. At Taeho, calm and certain. Open a channel, she said. The screen flickered. A face appeared, Krathan. But older than Vornak. Ancient, even. Her scales were pale gray, almost white. Her eyes were deep gold, filled with centuries of violence and power. This was no simple warrior. This was Elder Mathis, the matriarch of the Krathan homeworld. The most feared being in the galaxy. I am here for my commander, she said. Her voice was ice. He vanished during a campaign. We tracked his signal to your ship. You will give him to me, or you will die. Yuna opened her mouth to respond. But before she could speak, another voice cut through. Elder. Everyone turned. Vornak stood in the doorway of the bridge. No one had let him out. Somehow, he had freed himself. The chains hung broken from his wrists. The crew froze. This was it, Taeho thought. He would kill them all and return to his people. Everything had been a lie, but Vornak did not attack. He walked slowly to the center of the bridge, his massive form casting shadows over everything. He looked at the screen, at the elder who had come to claim him. Then he turned to Taeho, and he bowed. Not a small bow, not a quick nod, a deep, full bow, the kind a warrior gives to someone who has changed their life. His head almost touched the floor. His body, which had killed thousands, bent in respect before a human cook. The bridge was silent. On the screen, Elder Mathis stared. Her ancient eyes went wide. Her claws gripped her throne. For perhaps the first time in her long life, she did not know what to say. What is this? She finally hissed. Vornak, what are you doing? Vornak rose from his bow but kept his eyes on Taeho. This human, he said, his voice carrying across the bridge and through the communication channel, has shown me what we have lost. He did not fight me. He did not run from me. He fed me. Fed you? The elder's voice dripped with confusion and disgust. We do not need prey to feed us. We take what we need. No, Elder. You do not understand. Vornak finally turned to face the screen. He gave me real food. Made with his own hands. Made with love. The word hung in the air, strange and foreign. He gave me back the memory of the hunt. Not the killing, the purpose. The meaning. The warmth of gathering around fires with family. The taste of food shared with those we care for. Vornak reached into a pouch at his belt, a pouch Teho had not seen him touch before. From it, he pulled a small container. Before I freed myself, I took this from the galley. The last portion of his grandmother's stew. He held it up to the screen. Taste it, Elder. Taste it and remember what we were. Before we became conquerors. Before we became empty. Elder Maethys was silent. Her crew shifted uncomfortably behind her. No Krathen had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever challenged her understanding of what it meant to be Krathen. You ask me to eat prey food? She said. I ask you to remember. Vornak replied. I ask you to feel. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, the elder rose from her throne. She was old, but she moved with the grace of a predator. She walked to the transporter pad at the edge of the screen. Bring me the container, she commanded. Minutes later, she stood on the bridge of the Nuri's light. The crew pressed against the walls, terrified. Elder Maethys towered over all of them. Even Vornak seemed small beside her ancient presence. She took the container from Vornak's hands. She opened it. Steam rose, carrying the smell of Teho's stew, rich and warm and full of memory. The elder breathed it in. Something changed in her face. A crack in the ice. A flicker of something long buried. She raised the container to her lips. She drank. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Teho saw it, a single drop of liquid, falling from the elder's eye, rolling down her pale scales, dropping to the floor, a tear. The first Krathen tear in 1,000 years. This. Elder Maethys's voice was different now. Soft. Broken. This tastes like my mother's fire. Like the den where I was born. Like, she could not finish. She simply stood there, holding an empty container, crying tears she did not know she could still produce. Vornak placed a claw on her shoulder. We have forgotten who we are, Elder. We have conquered everything except our own emptiness. But this human, this small, fragile human, has shown me that there is another way. Elder Maethys looked at Teho, really looked at him, not as prey, not as an obstacle, as something new. What is your name? She asked. Teho, he said. The elder bowed her head, not as low as Vornak had, but enough. Teho, she said. Will you teach us? Teho thought of his grandmother, of the small kitchen in Busan, of all the meals they had shared, all the love that had passed through food and hands and time. Yes, he said. I will. The Krathen homeworld was not what Teho expected. He had imagined a dark place, full of blood and bones and death. Instead, he found a world of harsh beauty, towering mountains of black stone, rivers that ran silver under twin suns, forests of trees that had survived for 10,000 years. It was severe, yes. Dangerous, certainly. But there was a raw majesty to it that took his breath away. He had been here for 3 months now. Not as a prisoner, not as prey, as an honored guest. The first human ever welcomed to the Krathen homeworld. His job was simple and impossible. Teach the galaxy's greatest predators how to cook. The first lesson had been a disaster. Teho had gathered 20 young Krathens in a large hall. He had set up cooking stations with fire pits and pots and ingredients. He had demonstrated how to make a simple soup, vegetables, broth, patience. The Krathens had burned everything. They had growled at the vegetables as if the vegetables were enemies. They had smashed pots in frustration. One had tried to eat a raw onion and roared in pain when it burned his tongue. Teho had not given up. Day after day, he returned. He taught them to control their strength, to move slowly, to wait, to trust that the fire would do its work without their interference. He taught them that cooking was not a battle to be won, but a conversation with ingredients. Some Krathens left in disgust. Cooking was beneath them, they said. A waste of time. But others stayed. Something in them hungered for what Teho was offering, not food, but meaning. Vornak was always there. He was Teho's translator, his protector, his first and best student. He had taken to cooking with a dedication that surprised everyone. His claws, built for killing, learned to slice vegetables with precision. His eyes, made for hunting prey, learned to watch broth for the perfect moment to add spices. "It is like the hunt," Vornak said one evening, as they prepared dinner together. "But instead of tracking beasts, I am tracking flavors. Instead of killing, I am creating." "That's exactly right," Tejo said. The change came slowly, but it came. Krathan warriors began gathering around cookfires instead of war tables. They shared meals with prisoners instead of eating them. Young ones learned recipes from elders who had not cooked in centuries, who were rediscovering memories they thought they had lost forever. Trade ships arrived not to plunder, but to exchange. The Krathans wanted ingredients. Spices from distant worlds. Vegetables they had never tasted. Meats from animals that were not sentient, farmed with care instead of hunted to extinction. In return, they offered protection. No pirate would attack a ship under Krathan escort. No enemy would threaten a planet with Krathan allies. The galaxy began to change. Elder Maethys called Tejo to her chambers one day. She was different now. Still ancient. Still powerful. But there was a warmth in her eyes that had not been there before. "You have done something strange to my people," she said. "Something no army could achieve. Something no weapon could create." "Do." "I only taught them to cook," Tejo said. "No." The elder shook her head. "You taught them to feel. You gave them a reason to live beyond conquest. You showed them that strength is not just in the claw, but in the heart that moves the claw." She reached out and placed her massive hand on his shoulder, a gesture of respect among Krathans, he had learned. "My people have decided something," she said. "We wish to build a monument. A great building where all species can come and learn what you have taught us. We wish to call it the House of Flavors, and we wish you to lead it." Tejo was speechless. "I am old," the elder continued. "I will not live much longer. But before I die, I want to know that my people have found their way back. That the fires of meaning are burning again. Will you stay, Tejo? Will you help us?" He thought about the Nuri's light, about Yuna and Minho and Duri, who had returned to their cargo runs after leaving him here. About Earth, which he had not seen in decades. About his grandmother, who had started all of this without ever knowing. "Yes," he said. "I will stay." 6 months later, the House of Flavors opened its doors. It was a massive building at the heart of the Krathan capital, not a palace of war, but a temple of food. Species from across the galaxy came to learn. Humans and Krathans cooked side by side. Recipes were shared, mixed, transformed. New dishes were born from the meeting of 100 cultures. Tejo stood at the entrance on opening day, watching the crowds pour in. Vornak stood beside him, wearing an apron that looked ridiculous on his massive frame. "I still do not fully understand," Vornak said. "Understand what? Why this matters so much?" He gestured at the building, at the species mingling inside, at the smoke rising from countless cookfires. Tejo smiled. He had heard this question many times. From Krathans, from humans, from beings of a dozen different species. And he always gave the same answer. "It is never just food," he said. "Food is how we say, 'I am glad you are alive.' It is how we carry the people we have lost. It is how we tell someone, even a stranger, even an enemy, that they matter." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. Worn and faded, carried across light years and decades. It showed an old woman in a small kitchen, smiling at the camera. "My grandmother taught me that," Tejo said. "She never left Earth. She never saw the stars. But her love traveled further than any ship. Her recipes changed an empire. Her warmth touched hearts she never knew existed." He put the photograph away. "That is the power of food, Vornak. That is the flavor of home." Vornak was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached into his own pocket and pulled out something small, a dried flower from his homeworld, preserved for decades. "My mother gave me this," he said quietly. "On the day I left for my first hunt, I had forgotten why I kept it. He looked at it with new eyes. Now I remember. They stood together in silence. Two beings from opposite ends of the galaxy, united by something as simple as a meal. Around them, the House of Flavors hummed with life. Laughter echoed. Aromas drifted. Stories were shared. The galaxy was still vast and cold and dangerous. There were still wars, still conflicts, still pain. But in this one place, on this one world, something beautiful had taken root. A human cook had bowed a predator. A grandmother's love had crossed the stars. And the flavor of home had changed everything. As the twin suns set over the Krathan homeworld, Teho and Vornak walked into the House of Flavors together. There was cooking to be done. There were students to teach. There were memories to share. And somewhere, in a small kitchen that existed only in memory, an old woman smiled. Her grandson had done well.